Hi, everyone. Paul Goyette here again, and welcome back to the Goyette Ruano Thompson Law Firm Podcast. Appreciate you joining us again. Today, what we're going to talk about is the Corporate Transparency Act, which is a rather urgent matter that has come up for a lot of our clients. Today, I have with me my go-to guy, Mr. Brandon Largent.
Hey.
And Brandon and I work in our corporate governance and transaction department. And we have a whole number of startup clients, business and corporate clients. And this particular piece of legislation affects all of them. So we want to make sure everyone is dialed in on what to do and when you have to do it. And Brandon has become our resident expert on the CTA, the Corporate Transparency Act. And so I want to talk it through with Brandon today and make sure you all out there understand what the new obligations are under this law. Brandon, thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Brandon, tell me the size and the nature of the company that the Corporate Transparency Act applies to.
Three main things that require reporting. That is businesses that have 20 or more full-time employees that generate 5 million or more in annual revenue. And then lastly, maintain a physical presence within the United States. And that includes leases, businesses that are renting space, a physical presence.
What if your company just, say, working out of your home, like many people do?
It includes the same. If you have that many employees, so remote teleworking, if you will, there's a lot of that going on, or independent contractors take that back. If you are an independent contractor, you're a sole proprietor. But if you happen to be a company, say a transcription service that employs a bunch of people that work out of their home, if you have 20 or more and you fit those requirements, it doesn't matter that you're working out of the house.
Okay, so 20 or more employees, 5 million or more in gross receipts.
Correct.
So if you're a small company below those thresholds, a CTA does not apply to you.
Technically, by the statutory language, a lot of the use of the language "may" is found within there.
Okay.
And of all of the material that I've researched and read on it, even if you're the sole proprietor or somebody who has a small, intimate business, it's highly encouraged for you to report.
Okay, so that really begs the next question is, what exactly does the CTA require a business owner to do?
The good news is, despite all the bad news of, overreach, if you will, and a lot of lack of privacy or independence these days in financial transactions.
Don't get me started.
I think we align a bit on our libertarian views, certainly as it relates to financial matters, but the good news is the reporting requirements are not that stringent here. There is a web-based portal or a website. You could Google BOI, or beneficiary owner information is what BOI stands for under the CTA. And you'll be directed to a web portal where you can make your submission online. I've done a number of them for a number of different clients so far, and it takes maybe 15, 20 minutes at the most.
Okay, you say make your submission online. What information do you have to submit? What's required?
Great question. So the real key here is for businesses, and this includes all types. I know in one of our prior podcasts, we talked a lot about LLCs and LLPs. All of those are included. If you're an owner that has a 25% ownership stake in the business, 25% or more, that is considered the threshold for a beneficiary owner that requires reporting information.
Okay.
So let's take us, for example, say we are 50-50 owners in a business. We're both required to report. And it's as simple as you put in your first or your legal name, first, middle, last. Mm-hmm. You have to list your residence, your address, wherever it is in the States. And then you include a certain type of identification. Most common would be, we're in California. We used our California driver's licenses, whatever state issued ID you have, or passport. Or for a foreign owner who lives, say, in another country, Canada or Spain, for example, who has an ownership interest in a U.S.-based company, that foreign passport works. So name, residence, copy of the applicable and appropriate identification, and then you identify the legal name of the entity. Say, for example, or its EIN number, employee identification number, and the name of the business. And that's it.
Okay. And that got me thinking, because I do have a couple of businesses where I have Canadian partners.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, okay, we don't have 20 or more employees. Our revenue is at the threshold or above. So we're going to have a reporting requirement. But my partner, who is a 25% owner or more in this case, is Canadian. So the disclosure would require a copy of his passport.
Yeah, that's that foreign passport.
Plus all his other information.
Plus all of the residence information up there in Canada. It could be a simple, a PDF or image of that identification or passport, and you click and drag it right into that portal, and there it's preserved. You get done within 15 minutes. You get from the FinCEN issued a confirmation number identifying your successful completion. And you retain that in your digital library for your business. I'm going to stress this point because we're coming up on a key date. We've been trying to push this information out to a number of our business clients and our own self-interests and businesses we may be involved in. January 1, 2025 they kind of gave a long window for people to come up to speed on this and learn about it. And here, when our profession, every year, annually, it seems like we're always doing updates on what are the new laws dropping. This is a big one.
Exactly.
Because you can start to incur financial penalties day over day. And if egregious and willfully resisting to reporting, potentially criminal fines.
Okay, that's disturbing. But I'm going to come back to that in a second. But so the deadline to report under the CTA is now, am I hearing that correctly? January 1st, 2025?
That's it. That is the drop dead date to have it in.
Okay, that's coming up on us. And just so our viewers can easily find it, what do you know the name of the website, or we can post it in the chat?
I think we are going to have, because off the top of my head, it's so funny because I've done so many of them, I can't think of the URL off the top of my head.
Well, we'll post it in the chat so you can go right to it, so you have access there. And of course, we're available to help you do that. One of the things I noticed months ago when this law passed and it first came to my attention, I knew we had a lot of runway time before it became effective, but I got looking at it and there were some massive penalties associated with those. Can you describe what those are?
So there's a lot of financial penalties. That's what's always going to incentivize you to cooperate, right? At 500, upwards of $591 a day for every single day beyond January 1st, 2025. It doesn't mean that you're going to face that financial penalty. It means that you may. I've been looking at this quite a bit, and the running theory behind it, for me anyway, is the sheer magnitude of what the FinCEN is going to have to enforce here, with hundreds of thousands of business people reporting. The sheer volume of workload there is, how are you really going to police that? But at the end of the day, the scary part about that is you don't want to wind up being that lucky person who gets audited or made the example of.
Who gets targeted.
They're just, whether that's a lucky random draw out of a hat or however they choose to do it.
Or they don't like how you voted. There's that.
There's that. So $591 a day and other civil penalties, as well as I said before, potential criminal penalty.
Okay, so this is really important, obviously, for our clients. We want to, especially our clients of that size. And by the way, that's the size business that is least able to afford and deal with those kind of penalties. So it's important for us to get the word out to all the businesses out there in our stratosphere of that size of this reporting requirement. The libertarian in me just looks at this as another example of government overreaching, government meddling, getting in our business, suppressing entrepreneurs, suppressing small business owners. But there's got to be some productive theory behind why this exists. Why is the government doing this to us?
Yes, and I'm catching your vibe there, because I feel like I want to put in my monocle and be the government overwatcher. But there's a balance there. I align with you a lot on these libertarian views. Certainly, in running your business and determining your own future and overseeing your own finances. However, at the same time, there's an interesting balance here. Let me back up a little bit and talk a little bit about the FinCEN.
And what is FinCEN? I hear that term. I hear people misuse that term all the time. I know what it is, but tell our viewers what that is.
FinCEN, really an acronym for the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. FinCEN falls under the executive branch of the United States government, and specifically under the United States Department of Treasury. So they are, and don't think of them, they're not uniformed or non-uniformed federal police officers, that nearly all of them are not with powers of arrest or carrying guns. What they are rather is, think about your CIA analysts. These are analysts that are very well trained and have a certain expertise, and what they're looking for and constantly enforcing potentially, and by way of enforcing, passing their investigative findings off to various federal entities like the FBI or DEA, for example, for them to then take that investigation further, effect arrests or whatever. But what they're looking at is money laundering and illicit financial transactions, certainly in the digital space, both occurring within the United States or inflowing or outflowing from with foreign entities. So there's a lot of money, and this falls under the CTA is also linked to what's called the Bank Secrecy Act.
Okay.
I think it was 1970, 1971. The BSA comes out.
Yep.
And this is where, and we all post 9/11 really started to find out more about financial transactions, whether there was a $5,000 limit or a $10,000 reporting limit that banks had to report to certain regulatory bodies about where that wire transfer went. And so that's when you started to see a lot of, make sure the transaction is just under 10 grand.
Yeah.
$9,999.
Right. So there wasn't a reporting requirement.
There wasn't a reporting requirement. And this all falls under the Bank Secrecy Act.
Gotcha.
FinCEN is a part of the analysts that are out there looking for a lot, again, money laundering, racketeering, all these different types of illicit financial transactions that in some cases, and let's be honest, we know that it has happened. It's money that is being utilized to support various potential terrorist organizations,
of course,
whether domestically or abroad. There's a lot of shell companies. We've heard that term a lot, where there's what is a business that has a physical address that has no employees going in or out of it, that's just simply being used to potentially launder money. So it looks like we have a regular business that we have a lease, or we own a condominium complex that nobody lives in, and we've never seen anybody coming and going, because folks out there that have some money, large amounts of money, purchase those shells, if you will, to flow other money through to make it look like it's a clean business or rental income or what have you.
Yeah, that's a cartel trick.
Very well said.
Yeah. So if I'm getting this correctly, what they're really trying to get at is under the CTA, we have to report ownership of these companies.
Ownership.
And so the days of having that secret majority controlling owner, those days are over.
It's with the FinCEN, sure.
Yeah, if you comply.
Absolutely.
With them, yeah.
If you comply. So if you're a 25% or more owner, you have to disclose. And this way they have essentially responsible parties for the business, that if there is some question of a transaction or some complaint out there that comes in, or an allegation, well, who do we know? How do we know that business? Who's in control of it?
That makes sense.
How do we reach out to them and find out?
So if I have an import-export business, say out of Colombia, and my 98% partner happens to be Pablo Escobar, but he's a silent partner, I'm going to have to disclose him.
You would, yeah. You
to comply.
You might upset that business partner, and it does sound like a deal he would do. What was you have 0.2% ownership?
You're right. No, I had 2%. I was 2%? Generous.
But yeah, that would be disclosed. And we have, as you well mentioned, we have a number of clients and or folks in our network that do business here in the United States.
Yeah.
And live in other countries, Canada being one of many that, again, I've received, foreign passports and taken care of the reporting requirements.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, there's nothing to worry about. It's yet again another regulation, if you will, to comply with. But, if you're out there being the entrepreneur that you are, being a 25% or more beneficiary owner of a business, I mean, I had to report for myself.
Yeah, same here.
It is what it is. You give my home address. One thing I want to put a cautionary tale out there for, there have been, as always happens when these things occur, make sure, and again, we'll put that URL there. I want to say it's boi.gov.
Okay, we'll have the link posted.
It's a .gov, but make sure, here's the telling part, because there's a lot of fake pages that can be out there that look like the reporting requirement.
No.
But and they're asking for credit card payment of $5 or $25 fee for processing.
Awesome pro tip here.
Zero fee. Again, I've done, I think, around
So
50.
don't pay a fee.
Do not pay a fee. If that's your tell that you know you're on the wrong website.
Gotcha.
If there's some sort of pull out your credit card and pay a fee, even if you think it's a low nominal $5 fee, there's no fee requirement from the federal government for making the report.
Okay, well, that's a first, right?
Good point.
That's the first, the government not extracting a fee out of us. So it is important, and I hope this helps, but it's important that if you have a business that falls in this category under the CTA, it is important that by the first of this year, which is coming up on us here in just several weeks, that you get that reporting done. Give us a call, shoot us an email if you need some help on this. As Brandon mentioned, he's done a whole bunch of these already, and we can get you taken care of here. The penalties scare me, honestly. And at $500+ a day, that could accumulate rapidly. And if you're not aware of this law, or if it falls through the cracks and 5 years go by, and then someone in the federal government decides to come after you and make an example of you, that will be a bankruptcy triggering event potentially if they tried to do the full enforcement action. So let's just get that compliance out of the way right now, and we're happy to help. Brandon, great job again today, brother.
Thank you, sir.
That was awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon.
Happy New Year. Happy reporting.